I have something very special that I want to share with you today. So a couple of weeks ago, I put up this video of myself as a 7-year-old performing my first classical ballet solo. And I had a few comments from people about my costume, and they wanted to know whether I still had it and whether I would be willing to share. And absolutely. So I'm very lucky because I have a mum that keeps all the memories. And this is that overlay that you see pictured in that video. So I say overlay because, and you'll notice it looks a bit different because it is an overlay, not a tutu. Back in the day, and when I say that, that makes me sound really old, we used to be quite simplistic in our costume designs and also really practical and resourceful. So we would wear a tutu for many, many years, a white base tutu that we could adjust as we grew. The way it was made, we could really adjust it as we got wider and taller. And I wore that particular white tutu, gosh, for probably 5 or 6 years, and then passed it on to my little sister. But what we would do is we would create overlays that go over the tutu. Now, very different to today's standards. I wore this particular overlay. Look at the details, isn't it beautiful? So simple. I wore this particular overlay for 3 years. In fact, my solo barely changed. Same music, same costume, a few iterations as my technique developed, but it was basically the same routine for 3 years, which is almost unheard of. And I think in this day and age, students are constantly wanting a new costume, a new routine, a new headpiece, a new vibe. And it's nice to sort of like just stop and really perfect what you already have and be really grateful and happy with what you already have. I think sometimes it's nice to spend a bit of time mastering our craft, dare I say. Now, I know in this very fast-paced society, I don't expect students to be happy with a routine for 3 years, but we should be pretty happy with the same costume and routine for 2, in my opinion. But yes, I sometimes crave a simpler time where this kind of costume could go on stage. It's actually showing up really well on camera, actually, but this really wouldn't pass on stage with a student of today. It's really not got much bling going on whatsoever. It's cut really beautifully. I'd actually almost put it on a student as a little dress as opposed to a tutu overlay. Back when I first opened the studio, I had one of my youngest students wear this, and that really was pushing it 14 years ago when I opened my studio, having a student wear this. That, at the time, 14 years ago, that was pushing it. There was already tutus on stage on 12-year-olds that were worth thousands and thousands of dollars. So I think parents, teachers, students, I would love your opinion in the comment section about the less is more approach, about perhaps I'm craving a simpler time where parents weren't expected to spend a small fortune or remortgage their house for a tutu. Yeah. I don't know, it's just nice. And I also think it's really impressive when a student comes out in a much more simple costume and it's all about the technique. But yeah, without dating myself, without saying, you know, back in my day, it is something I think about, and I just think this is gorgeous, but it's just interesting that it just really wouldn't pass the standards of today. It would almost be deemed unfinished and not quite right. But anyway, let me know in the comments, would love your thoughts.